29 of the Calon Yarns podcast. My name is Lynn and I'm coming to you from Cardiff in Wales in the UK, and this is a knitting, crochet, sometimes spinning, sometimes dyeing, but always fibre-based podcast. It is Saturday the 13th of June and I'm coming to you today from a very sunny day in Cardiff, so apologies if the light kind of changes as we go through the episode. But yeah, it was supposed to be quite rainy and not very pleasant today, but we've started off well, so this is good. If you are a new viewer, thank you so much for stopping by. I'm glad you found us. And if you are a returning viewer, a regular viewer, then as always, thank you so much for keeping on coming back and supporting this podcast. You can find me as Calon Yarns on all the social media places, Instagram, Ravelry, etc, etc. And I hope that you like what you see and you click the like and subscribe button and we can share the yarny goodness across the internet. So yes, I'm so pleased you're all here with us. And it is really warm. It's so close. I did put a knitted top on this morning, but it was just too much. So no, not today. Very warm indeed. And I just wanted to give you some apologies really. I have been podcasting weekly for quite a while now, since lockdown began on March the 23rd. Yes, that date is ingrained in my brain. But yes, these past 2 weeks have been really quite challenging, is that a good word? Overwhelming, busy, hectic, worrying, all those words and more. So I really haven't had the impetus to crochet much or knit much or podcast. My brain has been a bit frazzled, and as I'm sure you can imagine, events in the US over the last couple of weeks, from the murder of George Floyd and the protests over here and the Black Lives Matter campaign, which I support wholeheartedly 100%, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that at the end of the podcast. So I hope you stay to the end, and I hope if you have any thoughts or questions on how you can do better, how you can be better, what you can do to help the campaign, then maybe stay along till the end, and I hope that I have some thoughts that might help you, because I know myself that I have felt very helpless really over these last couple of weeks. But there are things that we can all do to support this campaign, and it's been so amazing to see how it really has been a global push of bringing down the statues, of trying to get legislation changed around what is taught in schools. Globally this is happening and it is fantastic. So yeah, I will talk about that a little bit more at the end if that's okay with you. But yeah, just a sense of why my brain has been in meltdown, I think, this last couple of weeks, and how lucky that I can allow myself to have a bit of a meltdown, and that kind of comes from quite a privileged position really of being able to address concerns and work my way through rather than having to deal with these issues on a day-to-day basis. I am not a person of colour. I don't have to deal with this every single day, so I make a choice to engage with the Black Lives Matter campaign and to support wherever I can, and I hope you will do the same. But as I say, I will explore more of that later, because I am sure, as I am, as lots of you are already taking control and educating yourselves to be better, to do better. So we'll leave that to one side for the moment, and get on to the very small amount really of knitting crochet content. But to say that I have finished my crochet blanket. Yes! This is one that I picked out of stash from about 4, 5, possibly 6 years ago. I don't know. In my the Confessions of a Blanket Starter episode, that must be about 3 or 4 weeks ago now, I think. Yes, I picked this one back up, and it is the flowers in the snow pattern, I think is where I got the original idea for the circles in the square. There's lots and lots of versions of this everywhere. So have a little look online. You can look at my Ravelry notes. It should be in there. If not, it will be in there by the end of today. But this is a very simple crochet of circles and then creating them into a square and then just joining them up. I say just, yeah, just join them, just crochet it up and just join them up. Because if it was a case of just crocheting them and joining them up, then I wouldn't be sat here 1,000 years later from having started it, having only just finished it. So you know what I mean. The process is simple, the application not so much. Yes, so I have finished. Let me see how, can you see how big it is? It is certainly not blanket, as in blanket on a bed size, but it is sort of over your shoulders, sitting out in the garden of an evening size. I'm sure there's a better phrase for that, but you know what I mean. So yeah, look, I can't see what you're seeing, so hopefully you're seeing lots of lovely colours and circles, and you can't quite spy the ends. When I say I've finished, but I haven't done the ends. I've started to kind of slowly tick away on those of an evening. But as I say, the desire to put my hand in my knitting basket has been really, really limited. I really am on meltdown in my brain, I think. So yes, I think I can just about manage to crack on with these ends. And that's the other thing, we're still in this lockdown. Wales is still in this lockdown, and ordinarily you'd see I would go along to a little knitting coffee with my knitting friends, and I would sit there with my blanket, and Lisa would probably look at this and go, oh my god, those ends are doing my head in, give it here. But of course I haven't seen her, so I cannot entice her to do my ends. And this is the tragedy, isn't it, of lockdown, I think. So yeah, I need to tick away on those, do them myself, and get that sorted, and then I'm going to give it a block. I'm not sure quite what to do, really. I don't really want to put it over the washing line because that will stretch it out. It is just leftover sock yarns, as I've said before, and then the grey is a 5 Moons sock colour in Drizzle, it's called. I'll put the details below, etc. But yeah, I'm not quite sure how to block it, because it definitely needs a block, because some squares are slightly different sizes. I didn't really follow a pattern, so I just kind of did it by eye, and clearly some days my eyes were big and some days my eyes were small, because they are big and small squares. So yeah, any hints and tips? Hopefully at the weekend, like I know it's Saturday today, but later into Sunday it's probably supposed to be a bit drier, so maybe just putting it out on the floor and just kind of stretching it that way rather than hanging it off over anything. I don't want it to stretch. I don't want the weight. It's quite a weighty blanket. I don't want the weight of it to stretch too much. So yes, answers on a postcard please, that would be helpful, because I think if I put it on the, I haven't really got a floor space that big enough in the house that doesn't have some sort of thing in the way, especially with the 2 children at home at the moment from uni and their stuff. More about that later. Yes, so advice would be very helpful. I did it on a 3.25mm crochet hook, and as I say, just created the pattern from reading through other bits and bobs, but I will put lots and lots of details about that below so you can kind of see where you can go for inspiration. And there's something really nice, isn't it, about doing a bits blanket, and I really see the appeal. And as I was doing my squares, I should count up all the squares really to see how many went into it. You kind of think romantically, oh, you know what, I like doing bits blankets, this is great. And then I have stopped myself from starting another one, because you and I both know that I have enough to be going on with, They are dotted around the house, so I am not going to start another one. Even though the urge is there, I'm going to try and finish another one. I might start, get back to my blanket that's a back and forth blanket rather than a squares or hexagons blanket, because I'm sort of done with that for the moment. Yes, going through the hole, making those little squares and then doing them all together. So yeah, I might grab my back and forth blanket, which is tucked down the side of my bed, and carry on with that one. So yeah, that is that. Hooray! One thing nearly done other than the ends. Is that allowed? It's sort of finished, isn't it? Yeah, that's fine. That's okay. So moving on, what else? So the only other project I have been working on in those moments has been my botanical garden sweater, and this is done from some undyed yarn, some cream undyed sock yarn from Yarn Undyed, which is a UK company. If you're looking for yarn to dye, then they are great. Lots and lots of range, very, very reasonable, excellent postage. Even under COVID, their postage times are really good. I do apologise, I'm all over the shop today. But yeah, I have just finished my decreases down the side of the body. If you've been here before, you'll know my quandary here. I've used a gradient yarn for the yoke, this lovely, lovely yoke with the hummingbirds that you can't quite see because it needs a dashed good block. But I haven't attempted to get on with the arms yet, because I know that the yarn shade will be slightly dire when I get to the arms. I'm not going to go into great detail about that. I've spoken about it ad nauseum in other podcasts. But yeah, I'm very pleased that I've done all my decreases as they come down the body. I think you've got 4 sets of decreases as you come down the side, and now I think I'm on the home straight before the ribbing. It's quite a long section of ribbing, so I think I've got about another inch to go before I hit the ribbing. I'm going to do it slightly cropped because that's a style that I wear more often than not, so I haven't got too far to go there. I keep saying every week I talk about I'm going to crack on with the neck, because this is a provisional cast on. It's not like that in the pattern, but that's what I've decided to do so I can see how high I want the neck. But yeah, I still haven't got on to that bit yet. That requires picking up stitches, feeding stitches on, unpicking my provisional cast on, which is all very complicated and needs quiet. There is very little quiet in this house at the moment. So yes, that really is the only other thing that I've been ticking over on. I do have another sock to knit. Yes, I can hear you. I know. I do have the other sock to knit from my Caverna sock pair. Done one, not the other. What can I say? I know. I just haven't started it. I have started it, but I haven't got to the cabley pattern bit. Oh my goodness, I really am blathering on today. You're probably sat there thinking, seriously, don't bother. If your brain is this way, just don't bother podcasting, just wait till the next week. So sorry. Acquisitions. Yes, I did buy something this week. I've really got into my spinning lately, as you all know. Sorry, I've got a fluffy nose. But I haven't even done much spinning this week at all. I had a little Zoom knit night with some chums the other day, and I did manage to do an hour of spinning while I was chatting to them. But still not a great deal there either. But I did buy a book which is called Yarnitecture, and I saw this book on Tiny Fibre Studio. I couldn't remember the Little Fibre Studio or Tiny Fibre Studio. Tiny Fibre Studio, she is a spinner, and she does a podcast. She's been going for a few years now, UK based. And yes, she was talking about this book. So it's a great resource for, it's a knitter's guide to spinning. Can you see that there? So what's really great about it as a beginner spinner is that it kind of really lays out how you can spin for knitted projects. So all that terminology about fractal and worsted and I can't remember the other one. What's the other one? Worsted and woolen. Oh my goodness. If there's anybody left out there now, yeah, worsted and woolen, semi-worsted, semi-woolen, all those different kind of spin terms that if, like me, you've kind of watched and listened to spinners for a while but have no idea what they're talking about. So it kind of gives you lots and lots of different information of how you can get what you want out of your spinning. So that's been a really nice little browse through, especially having listened to her podcast. She does this, it's called 51 Spins, and she did it in not collaboration, but she was following Ply magazine, did a 51 Spins spin along, I think it was called, and she kind of did the same but did it in her podcast. So she's spinning all different methods, half of which I've never heard of, most of which I wouldn't even attempt, but it's quite interesting to kind of see the different techniques out there. So you go, oh, because to me at the moment it still seems like I just do this thing and yarn, it appears, but how to control that, how to get what you want, is a whole other skill set. So it's interesting to read about, to maybe get things set up for the future. So yeah, that's been really lovely to have a look through that. And I went stash diving as well this morning. We've had to have a bit of a reorganisation of stuff. I will tell you later. So I knew this was in my stash somewhere, and I've been talking about possibly doing another ranunculus because I love the shape of that t-shirt, and as we're starting to get warmer and muggier, those kind of proper knitted projects that I've done, the jumpers, the sweaters, they're all a little bit heavy, but my ranunculus I do wear quite a bit, especially when it's warm but not too warm, but it does have mohair in it, and that kind of makes it extra warm. So I knew I had a little bit of a special skein of yarn that was baby camel and silk somewhere. I hoped I hadn't chucked it away. Why would I have? But I found it. So this is from Artisan Yarns. I have no idea if they're still going anymore, actually. I'll have a little investigate when I edit this together. So this is Artisan Yarns. They were based in Hereford. Has that focused? I do apologise. And as you can see, it is baby camel and silk. It's a lace weight, and this is 800 meters on here approximately, and it's got a real sheen to it, which is coming up quite nicely on the camera actually. But it's a denim-y blue. Oh, denim-y blue, you say? Wow, Lynn, that's a very strange colour for you. Yes, thank you, sarcastic. So I might have a go at a ranunculus in this, and I think it'll be it feels really lovely and light. I'm not sure if it'll stretch. The baby camel might stretch a little bit, but the silk should hold it in place, I'm thinking. If you've worked with, I've never worked with baby camel and silk combo before, so if you have, let me know. Does it stretch? Should I think about doing it a little bit more cropped than ordinarily I would? But it is so soft. It really feels super light. So I'm going to toy with that, and I won't be putting it with a mohair because I did a ranunculus out of lace weight for my daughter. Oh gosh, probably this time last year, I think. And I still use the same needle size as the pattern says, which I think is a 5 or 6. And it came out really beautifully. Yes, it was open. Yes, you have to wear a little vest top underneath it maybe, but it had a really nice shape to it, and was just a lovely thing to kind of throw on, you know, where it's not too cold, but you just need an extra layer. So yeah, I will investigate that, see how this week goes, and whether I have some space to think about casting that on, or whether I just continue to crack on with my botanical garden sweater. So yes, that is about it for knitty content. So if that is where you are leaving me, then thank you so much for coming along. I think go back and watch a different episode. If you are new here, there is generally more content in other episodes, but as I say, I have been all over the place these past couple of weeks. So if you want some solid knitting content, then please pop back to a previous episode and have a little look. But for those of you who are staying around, yes, as I say, it's been a crazy couple of weeks in work, in lockdown, in family, and obviously in the Black Lives Matter movement. The last couple of weeks of seeing the protests around the George Floyd murder, and the protests across the globe, the dragging down of statues, the whole thing has kind of got a real momentum at the moment, which is fantastic, and I absolutely support the campaign. I absolutely support the campaign of addressing what monuments we hold, which people do we hold in esteem, and maybe reconsidering that. It's really, really important, I think. But I just wanted to share some views with you on how I feel that I can help. I don't know if like me, that you're kind of feeling pretty helpless at the moment, and if you are and kind of don't know where to start to make a difference, then I think the first port of call really is to learn more, to maybe add a couple of books around white privilege, or anti-racism, or the Black Lives Matter campaign in general. There are lots and lots of books out there, and I will put a couple below. But yeah, add them to your reading list this summer. I know they helped me a few summers ago when I was kind of trying to consider what white privilege meant, how I was being complicit, how I could make myself understand more to become anti-racist. I've always been not racist, but I realise that that's not enough. And I think reading more helps to understand that, and helps you understand how you can do little bits, how little bits in changes of your perspective and changes of your thinking can really help a wider campaign for everyone to be able to amplify black voices and support an understanding of looking at colonialism and how we see history, how we see our place in society. All that stuff is really important, and you can never know too much. It's not possible. You can easily know too little, but it is not possible to know too much. And if you feel helpless, or you feel like you might say the wrong thing, then by reading up on this stuff, you're in a stronger position to be able to identify, I think, acts of racism, or to be able to address racism in your family or in your friendship groups. Or it's really important that we all do our bit to be better, to do better. So reading is a great place to start. Documentaries are a fantastic resource, and if you have Netflix, then you have got a wealth of information there. I would absolutely recommend 13th, a brilliant documentary that's been on Netflix for quite a while. When They See Us is a great series. The Kalief Browder story, that is also a really, really important documentary. There's lots on there. There's also lots on the terrestrial channels. And if you kind of want to see things from a British perspective, again, a lot of these books kind of see things from a British angle. It's very easy to think that, oh, but racism isn't as bad in the UK. Yeah, it is. It might be a little bit underplayed possibly, but is no less damaging. So yes, have a little look what's out there. If you can, support some of the Black Lives Matter campaigns, like bail funds or the George Floyd Memorial Fund. If you can contribute in that way, great. Sign some petitions. There are lots of petitions out there at the moment around changing curriculums in school for us to understand further about being anti-racist, or including some of the black history of all our nations in the curriculum. Things like that at the grassroots level, I also think are really important. And that kind of leads on to stuff in work, really. Not only are we busy with trying to consider how to start the term in September, but also how we can address our program content. We are in the middle of writing new modules, etc., and this is a great opportunity to go, no, let's embed in those modules more of an understanding of colonialism and how history is written, and global citizenship, all these different themes we can really embed in those courses, and that's really exciting. It's exhausting, but it's really exciting. And then feeding into that how we socially distance when we're back. How can we reorganise our campus to make sure that we can get students back safely, but as soon as possible? So that's been buzzing around my head as well. Timetabling takes on a whole new beast, because maybe we can only have 1 year group on campus, so on one day, which rooms can we use, but all that kind of massive jigsaw puzzle. I kind of feel like I've got about 6 different jigsaw puzzles on the go, and people keep taking pieces from one jigsaw puzzle and putting them on the table with the other puzzle, and I have to not only do the puzzle but work out which pieces belong on this puzzle. It honestly, it's been like that. But again, I know I'm really lucky to have a job. I am really lucky to still be able to work from home. So I am not moaning, I am just highlighting the utter chaos that is my life at the moment. And then leading on into family. I bet you're all like, oh my goodness, shut up. But leading on into family, so the kids' contracts for their university accommodations, which are private accommodations, they don't live in halls, they finish this week. So they have to get their stuff out. But we in Wales, not in England, but we in Wales are still in lockdown. So we're not supposed to go beyond 5 miles from our home address unless for an essential journey. Now, obviously, this is an essential journey, but you still feel like, oh, is that okay? So yes, late yesterday, I went and got Molly's stuff from her accommodation, but again, you have to organise who's going to be in the house, because everybody has to kind of get their stuff out. So okay, you're going at that time, we'll wipe everything down. You go at that time, we'll wipe everything down, get everything back, get it home. And then my husband is doing the same with my son today to get his stuff back before his contract ends. We're trying to put our stuff in, or their stuff in storage, because their new accommodation doesn't start until mid-August. Yeah, the 3rd jigsaw puzzle right there, sorting that out. And I feel really sad for them that they haven't kind of had their end of term party, their end of term, oh, wasn't it great living in this house for a year, our first proper independent house. That's just kind of fizzled out, so they haven't had that their house leaving party. So that's quite sad, and I think they're now, all their work is handed in, they're starting to realise that there's going to be a very long summer of not doing what they planned, going on holiday with their mates, or going to visit friends in London or Birmingham or Coventry or wherever. They were going to go on a road trip to Scotland, you know, all these kind of things are just going, phew. And again, in the grand scheme of things, that's fine, it doesn't matter. But you just kind of feel for them, that empathy kicks in, and you think, oh, it's such a shame. And within my own working community, the creative community, theatres are starting to shut down, going dark for a year, having to lay off staff, so there's a big crisis in the arts. Oh, it's a bit like that, isn't it? It's a bit like that. So yeah, what did I say at the beginning? A challenging couple of weeks. It certainly has been. However, the bigger picture is that we can all make a difference to a very important movement. So that is really where I want to sign off, is to I will catch up with you next week. Hopefully I'll have some more knitting and more productivity by next week. Hopefully I'll get a couple of jigsaw puzzles finished, if you know what I mean. But I leave you with a call really to, if you can do something, please do it. Please have a little read of some educational stuff around racism. Please sign some petitions. Please watch some documentaries. Contribute financially if you can, but please don't turn away. I'm sure you won't. I'm sure you haven't. And I'm sure I'm not telling you anything you don't already know. But we can make a difference, and we must. And on that note, I will see you all next week. Happy knitting. See you soon. Hoi vang. Bye.